Tomb Raider 2, the second of the Tomb Raider franchise. Oh yeah, that was a game that, well, the series made a landmark. And Tomb Raider 2, when it came out, was, oh, they had one hell of a campaign for that one. Hell, commercials even said, showed various places that were predominantly populated by mostly men, boys, all empty. They went into like an arcade, and the arcade owner is like, Laura's back! And that's basically what happened. I mean, now, this was released in 1997, and it was the second of the core design timeline of the game. And its story, it focused on the Dagger of Xian. I hope I pronounced that right, to be honest. Now, I didn't get this until maybe a year or two later, maybe. I think I got it in 1999 myself. But it was a lot different from the first Tomb Raider game. And that was in part due that you had a more announced central antagonist of the game. That being Marco Bartoli and his family, and his goons, and whatever cult or whatever that's gotten formed around him. You see, he was seeking the Dagger of Xian as well, because of the Powered game. Now, this was a game that literally, if you didn't pay attention to the opening cutscene, you might miss out on how to proceed in the game when you get to the final battle. The quote, main final battle. And this was one of those, this cutscene's important. Pay attention to it, you dumbass. Well, and like the previous games, it had levels that were focused on certain areas. And your first level was actually the Great Wall of China. Because apparently, where the Dagger of Xian is held is underneath the Great Wall of China. And this is one of the games that does not necessarily hold your hand. I mean, even in the first game, you had a level in which you could play before the main game at Laura's home to let you learn the skills. And the first level, the Great Wall, assumes you've done that first off. Because while the first part of the level is relatively straightforward and simple, you literally get thrown into a non-stop gauntlet from from a certain point on. I mean, literally, you enter into one area, and there's a bunch of blades being literally shot at, in a crossing fashion that you have to get by. And then after that, it's boulder traps, run, run, run. Then incoming spikes. And then run through a hallway with blade traps and spikes and pits with spikes. And It's mad dash time before they even set up sprinting in the franchise as a control. So what do? Well, it's simple. You freaking die a lot in the first level until you get it all done. And then, of course, towards the end of the level, and it's a little bit optional at this point, you have a T-Rex battle in a chasm under the Great Wall that is apparently narrow. And once you get rid of the T-Rex, and that's actually the location of one of the secrets in the first level, when you turn around and leave that area, there's another T-Rex. Two for the price of one. I was on a podcast back in 2019 where we played the game of Tomb Raider 2, discussed it and all that fun stuff, and bada bing, bada boom, it's like, how the hell are there two T-Rexes down there? To which they said, like, well, they were walking one behind the other. It's like, I'm like, well, then why didn't we shoot both of them at the same time? But then again, this is Tomb Raider logic. It's never meant to make sense. Gaming wise, there are some things that do make sense in Tomb Raider. Now, after that, you're off to Venice, where the Bartolis headquarter themselves. Then to an offshore oil rig, which also has the other tradition of the retrieve your weapons level, or retrieve your weapons levels. And then comes, I think, what is one of the more challenging sections that has ever been included in, more challenging sections that have been included in the series, on which you start the first of the underwater levels, literally swimming for your life. You only have a few moments to figure out your correct bearings, swim, and it's pretty much a tight squeeze to get to a place where you can get air. All this when you have a shark following you. And yes, you could kill the shark with harpoons. I prefer to outrun the damn thing because you have to keep your air. Or does not have infinite lungs. She's not Mario. I mean, Mario, he's got that infinite lung capacity. I don't know how he does it, but... but anyhow. Once you work your way through the levels of the ship, in which a majority of your enemies are human, as is on the oil rig. I mean, yeah, you do kill maybe a few dogs or so. And your enemies of Bartoli's gang of goons, they have guns, they have wrenches, they have bats, they have steel pipes, they have flamethrowers! You know how many times that has pissed people off. Like I said, most of the enemies in this game were human. Of course, once you get done getting through the underwater levels and through the wrecked ship, you move on to Tibet with some understandable nature-themed animals like leopards and eagles, but you also have more goons. Goons on snowmobiles. Snowmobiles so lethal they can kill you in one hit. And you use this level to get to the monastery, the Bakhang Monastery. where you can get what you need to further move along in the temple under the Great Wall of China. And of course, you got more. This was actually the Bada King Monastery was actually one of the more clever things I think they put into it, because it was your first time that you had to deal with enemies that, or you had to deal with characters who could be either ally or enemy. The monks in the monastery are obviously going to fight Bartoli's goons, and they will react hostile to you if you point guns at them. If you shoot them, maybe more than once, or kill one of them, then they will target you, making it everybody's coming after you. So you literally have to think: do I want to be do I want to be an ass, or do I want to do things smart? And if you do things smart, well, you have the monks going around and killing all the baddies for you. That's a plus. I like that. Let them kill the baddies. Yay! Of course, then you deal, since you're in the Himalayas and in Tibet, you got to deal with the Yetis at some point. And by the end of these areas, you will have to deal with one huge buff chicken. And if you aren't ready for this huge thing, you will your pants. Yeah, you'll shit your pants. No lie. After that, you go back to the Great Wall of China to the Temple of Xian. And I will admit, when I first played that level through, I played it to a point and I just couldn't play it. I am a bit of an arachnophobe. I mean, I'm not about to scream in fright when I see a spider. I will pause for a moment and then crunch, squish. I think one of the worst nights I ever had, one of the worst experience I ever had with a spider. I killed one and it turned out to be a mama, and our room was literally crawling with baby spiders. Baby spooters. Kill the baby spooters. Yeah, I was not a happy camper that day. Ooh boy. But when I first played this level and I saw those giant ass spiders, I'm like, oh, hell no. And this is it was the first time in a Tomb, and pretty much only time in a Tomb Raider game, I performed a level skip cheat. And of course, after the Temple of Xian, now what happens at the end of when you get all the way through? Bartoli successfully has gotten to the dagger, stabs himself with it to begin his transformation into the dragon. And his goons, cult, whatever, take him away. When Laura follows, we enter one of the most beautifully surreal levels I have ever seen in a Tomb Raider game. That being floating islands. And I will admit, I love that level. The islands floating in midair. All this inside a temple, or a temple under, in or under, or accessed through the Great Wall of China. I mean, oh my God, this place it's beautiful. And you have like these jade warriors that come to life when you get close enough to them to trigger them. They're also a bitch to fight. I mean, that surreal level still remains one of my favorite Tomb Raider levels because of the design. And of course, then you fight in the next level, final level. You fight the dragon, and after that, Laura's back home, and of course, the remainder of Bartoli's goons come after you. I think that level was mostly was a bit of fan service because Laura's home. She's in a short nightgown. I think she was going to get ready to take a shower when she was examining the dagger, and then all hell broke loose. So you have to get into her gun closet, get her shotgun, get all the ammo you could get, and any health packs you can grab in there too, and then just plow through the goons until you get rid of them all. The only weapon you have being the shotgun. And apparently the only thing Laura is wearing is this nightgown that stops just above, just before, revealing her naked posterior and all that. At the end of the level, she's turned on the shower. She has the shotgun there, panning up, and she just looks at the screen. It's like, don't you think you've seen enough? Grabs the shotgun. And that's the end of the game. Now, also, while you can run around the home in the tutorial, you can even find her trophy room, which will have in it the Xian from the last game, as well as, I think, a few little goodies in the extra adventures that were released on PC. With Tomb Raider Unfinished Business. I don't know if that's available anymore or not. But it was an experience to get through. And it just adds to showing that Laura is a very tough character. She is probably one of the tougher female protagonists in video games. And it was a fun game to play through the whole thing. And also, it was also where they first started really standardizing and keeping track of the secrets better. Like in the first few games, I think in the first one you could be told how many secrets there were in each level. In this one, the secrets were a bit more obvious in some ways. While you did have to look for them, you knew they were a secret because they were dragons. If you grabbed all three, with the third one you grab, you get a boost in ammo, weaponry, with each level. And of course, that helps you later in the game. Because, you get this big boost of ammo, so you're not necessarily going to go through it all. Of course, you get people who play pistol-only runs, and they never use any ammo because why should I use any other ammo? I've got all these. My pistols have unlimited ammo. Yeah, well, they have unlimited ammo because they're the shit-ass wimpiest weapon. Although I shouldn't talk, because I myself do that. I'll use other weapons when I see fit. I mean, let's face it, Bartoli's goons, getting through them with pistols is like... Well, pistols, you don't want to just use pistols when you're coming up against a flamethrower dude, because, let's face it, some of those guys like to lurk near somewhere where Laura can't get near any water to get herself, put out. Now, of course, this was the second of the Tomb Raider franchise. I think a lot of people consider it the best of the franchise. And that is their opinion. There's very high, a lot of good reasons to think it's the best. Because it added to Laura's capabilities. First time we ever saw Laura zipline. That's kind of cool, and that's a trick in and of itself to master, because you do it at the wrong point or let go at the wrong point, you're dead. Plain and simple. And I think zip lines do show up in the third game, but we'll talk about that game at a later point. But did enjoy this game when I first played it at the tail end of the 1990s, and even replaying it in recent years, it is still a fun game. And to be honest, you may not like the controls nowadays, but for a lot of us, these were the controls we started with. But it is heralded as one of the better or best Tomb Raider games out there. And that's all I'm going to say about Tomb Raider 2. A little bit later on, I'll probably talk about Tomb Raider 3. Now, I will talk about Tomb Raider 3. I'll eventually talk about all of them in the core design timeline. But until then, I bid you adieu. If you've enjoyed hearing to me talk, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel. This is Rich Kale here on YouTube, Rich X elsewhere. These retrospectives go up once every Saturday. Until next time, take care.